Welcome back. Well, yes, Bola Bakare joins us now. He's of the Truth Be Told Network. Thank you for coming on this morning.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, truth be told, how did INEC perform?
Yeah, there we go again. The last time we were here, and then our discussion on INEC was based on the operations in Anambra State. And there and then, honestly, we took a swipe at INEC, because we believe the protocols of electioneering was a little bit faulty then. But in the case of Ekiti, I gave this one to Jaga. He observed the protocols of electioneering. And this time around, it came out good.
Was any of your members in Ekiti at the time?
Yes. We were there. We don't come out to say the truth without being there. So like I was saying, the protocols, let me give you the details of the protocols of electioneering. It has in it the voters register, which is the spine of electioneering. It has the element of materials. It has the element of logistics. It has the element of personnel and the element of security. The last one is not totally an INEC situation. It's partial. INEC can only ask for security. The state provides the security. But let's look at those details in total. In terms of the register, which we queried in Anambra those days, because in Anambra then they were coming up with a lot of glitches. You have babies with headgear to make them look older. You have situations of your name being somewhere and it not being on the second disc. But this time around, there were no glitches. So, that is one switch for INEC. In terms of materials that culminates into the logistic aspect, it was good. At least materials were not missing. Logistic was proper. Materials were where they should be. In terms of personnel, I remember the last time we were here, I said INEC staffers were not a cogent lot. I guess this time around they're cogent.
Can you say the same thing for security?
I'm coming to that. They were cogent, and then they were able to deliver to the level that Nigerians were anticipating for. In terms of personnel, both in-house and ad hoc staff, they did a fairly good job this time around too. I'll give another switch to INEC. But in terms of security, I said it here about Anambra State. We brought in 30,000 from Abuja, 10,000 in Anambra State, making 40,000 plus all the other paramilitary, what have you being there. I queried that. I said, look here, do we have to do that for one state? In the case of Ekiti, there was an excessive situation of security personnel.
Good or bad?
If you're futuristic in your thinking, it's bad.
But
no, listen, hear me out. One DIG in Ekiti, 2 AIGs in Ekiti, 1 chopper in Ekiti. Extrapolate that. Do we have 36 DIGs in Nigeria for general elections? No. Do we have 72 AIGs for general elections? No. Do we have 36 choppers for general elections? No.
Yeah, but being realistic, it's a staggered elections. One in Anambra, one in Ekiti, the next one in Osun. So, if they replicate that template and it has worked, should they continue?
No. I would like to throw another truthful challenge to Jagat this time around. I believe it's high time you play down on the security that you can manage in a general election. Where is it going to get 40,000 for a state in a general election?
Is it to Jaga or to security agencies?
Jaga makes a request. Jaga doesn't have one policeman that he can send on errands. He makes a request. The state sends that. But at the end of the day, where is the state going to get 40,000 times 36 on a general election?
I get the point. You're being futuristic.
That's right.
What about being realistic on what happened on the day? If we didn't have that amount of security and there were questions about the elections, you'd have taken another swipe at INEC.
Naturally, yes. But the thing is, the swipe we are taking right now is we're getting ready for a general elections. But like I was saying earlier,
let's say we should start getting used to it, that we won't have that amount of security personnel to go around the country.
We don't have it. For general elections, we don't have it.
So it comes back to the electorates and the people in conducting themselves in the proper manner, isn't it?
That's why I'm throwing the guy challenge right now. We have another isolated elections in Osun State. Drop the level of the security personnel.
That's not his call. I mean,
No. The thing is, if you're giving me security on this level to give me this kind of response, this kind of result, let's drop it a little bit so that I can get an inkling about what's going to happen in a general election in 2015.
Because some people will say that all he does is ask for security. He doesn't.
Agreed.
He doesn't say, "I need this much."
Don't you think they will make a mess of him if he's been working with 40 and now he has to work with 5?
But don't you also think that the security? Because I do know that when elections are coming up, security agencies do come up with, risk. They do a risk assessment of each state. And even sometimes label some states,
high risk,
and exactly, and low risk. So they know some states are violence prone. And I think that, one would think that the Electoral Commission will leave all of that assessment, because that's a security area, will leave all of that assessment to them, and it will have absolutely nothing to do. All he does possibly is request for security, and they factor out the rest.
I still insist he has to get ready for a general elections by looking for a way around how to manage security personnel.
Do you think that the circumstances at play or the intricacies at play in Ekiti will also come into play in Osun? How would you rate, say, how closely contested these elections will be in Osun State, for instance?
Honestly, in Osun State, I believe in the gentleman Jega, Professor Jega right now, because the level of improvement, it's vivid to Nigerians. Because I hold one thing for him. When I took a swipe at him and said on air that he should tell Nigerians the truth, that he made a mess of Anambra elections, he did that. Though another school of thought was quick to say, yes, the man is admitting to making a mistake. But truth be told, knows that this man is an astute human being. He's more of brains than brawn. This is a man who knows that the moment you identify your mistake, you're 50% home. So Jega identified the mistake in Anambra, improved on it. That is why we have a good election in Ekiti State. And I am very positive, I am sure Jega is going to improve on that in Osun State. But there and then, he has to think in terms of the security factor.
Which is basically why I'm asking you that question as to Ekiti. We all know that Ekiti has had a history of violent elections. This particular election, they didn't have that. In Osun State, do you also think that they have the tendency to be violent?
You see, it's once a situation occurs, it becomes a trend. We're beginning to have a trend here in Nigeria. A trend where people go out to vote and go back home. The average Nigerian responds to good situations. Though in some cases, most things are shoved down our throats. But when we see that it's coming out good, we toe the line. I believe the election in Osun is going to be as peaceful as it is in Ekiti State.
Do you think that the level of security presence in Ekiti also had anything to do with the level of peace, and calm experienced in that particular state?
Yeah, it's a decimal you can rule out. Mm-hmm. It's a decimal that played a big part. Because all that happened, there are some instances where I said it was high-handed. The level of restriction was high. And that in itself is part of the security. But all that need done is have a good situation of what you have on ground. This is where I am going. This is the LG I am going. Restrict people from moving from LGA to LGB. But at the same time, you don't go too far. It was excessive because there are some VVIPs that wanted to do this. Some of them were quarantined or this or that. You need not go to that level.
So let's speak a little more about that. I mean, in addition to that, there were also more stories about some of the other political party chieftains, chief of them APC, being picked up and restricted from movement. Some also say that there was this Fortune Hotel that was raided. Did you hear about all of those?
You see, I don't want to play about partisan politics. I'm particular about the midwife.
We're asking you about what you saw.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
You don't have to be partisan about this.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. You see, the situation on ground is because the security is a state apparatus. The person who determines its operation is somewhere else. And that in itself, it's the pure case of the African thing. Give a man a hoe. He's going to till the soil to himself. The state is doing that to its own favor.
When you say the state?
Federal government.
Okay.
Nigeria as a state, the federal government is doing that. But at the same time, like Malquer said, we were able to achieve a level of quietude, a free and fair elections. You see, I'll run an inference. This elections is like June 12th. June 12th had its own chaos and what have you, but it was still free and fair. So also in Ekiti. There are bits and pieces of skirmishes here and there, but it was still free and fair.
The reason I had to bring that up, I mean, it's because you do know that, I mean, I was trying to bring you back to the fact that, you know, agents of state, when it comes to security, do this analysis. It's very possible that Ekiti State, owing to its history, could have fallen into the high-risk
state.
Yeah, high-risk state, and maybe that warranted the level of security, you know, deployed to the state. Now, I'm also asking you, do you think that Osun State could also fall into that category so that if the security personnel do have the resources, why would they not deploy just as much as they did in Ekiti to Osun State?
Well, I'm all for what you're saying. Mm-hmm. The situation on ground in an isolated case gives room for extra personnel doing nothing at that moment. Mm-hmm. I am extrapolating the situation on ground to a general election. So let's practice. Practice for a general elections where there's going to be a reduction in that level of security personnel.
You also know that states will not get equal amount of personnel.
But even at that, reduce this number. They're over 40,000. They're over 40 in Anambra. They're over 40 in Ekiti. What I'm saying, what I'm advising is, let's look for a situation if we can make do with 20 in Osun. Or maybe they have a number they want to work with. Maybe Osun is high risk or low risk.
Break it down. What exactly are you asking? For him to change his mode of operation or deployment of logistics?
Mm-hmm. Would you commend
his own operation that is strictly INEC operations is in terms of the protocols of electioneering. Security, I said, is something he makes a request for. And the state deploys men for that. But they play a part in his own job. That's why he has to factor them into his own business in the situation of a general elections.
All right, give us that instance then. In a situation of a general election, in terms of his preparation, what should he do differently?
That is why I am saying one thing. We've been using 40, 50,000 in Anambra, Ekiti. There's another test case in Osun State. Drop the numbers. Let's look at 20,000 or less with backup somewhere around the states. That is, if he's scared, it might get marred somewhere. If you do that at 20 and we get the same thing like we did in Ekiti State, we're getting there. We're really getting there. So basically, the Jega, this is one for you. I take back my sweep in Anambra. Ekiti is something good. And I am expecting something good out of Osun State too.
A good place to leave it then. Bola Bakare of the Truth Be Told Network. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Always glad to be here.
Okay then, we'll be back after this break. Don't go away.